In this video, I'm going to be talking about some things that fascinate me about living in Finland. Hey there, if we've never met before, my name is Shirley and I live in Finland with my husband and our 2 small kids. So we're gonna go through our home and I'm gonna show you room by room some things that I just really adore about living in Finland. The first thing is that when you open the front door, there's often a second door here. I'll turn on the light here. This is to keep out the noise and also the cold during the winter months. And I am taking off my shoes here because nobody wears their outdoor shoes in Finland. Winters here can be extremely long and also snowy, so nobody wants to bring the outside grime into their home. Let's go on in. When we first come in through the door, to the left is our kitchen. Okay, let me take off my jacket because it's warm in here. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you might notice that I sound a little bit funny. I have been fighting off this nasty cold for over a week now, so I still sound a little bit nasally, so I apologize. Before we go into the kitchen, I did want to talk about keys in Finland. Okay, these are obviously not the real keys, they're toy keys, but there's something called a universal key. This key not only opens up our front door, but it also opens up the garbage area, and it also opens up our cold storage as well as our mailbox, which I will show you a little bit later on in the video. So instead of having multiple keys for different areas, you just have one key. It can be made to fit into different things, but also have it be unique that it opens up your front door. First thing I wanted to point out are the appliances. The appliances are a little bit smaller and a little bit narrower than what I am used to in the US. So for instance, here we have the stove. The oven is much smaller. My hand for reference here. The oven is much smaller than what I'm used to in the States, and it's not very common to have open flame stove, so we have an electric stove. But funny enough, the dishwasher seems to be a little bit wider than the stove for some reason. And then if you look over here, this is our fridge. We have 2 fridges because we live in a slightly larger row house with 4 bedrooms, so they provide you with 2 fridges, but normally you would just get 1 fridge, and it's a lot narrower and just a tad taller than fridges in the US. I think fridges in the US usually stop around here. All right, now let's come on over to the sink area. You might know this or you might not know this, but usually above the sink, there's a drying rack in which you can put stuff here to dry if you've hand washed things, or if you have stuff that's taken out of the dishwasher and isn't fully dry yet, you can put them up here and then the water will just kind of trickle down into the sink and dry. If you look up here, this shelf is also a wire rack. It's meant to be used for drying, but we just have a lot of stuff and not too much things we need to air dry. And so we kind of utilize that space for storage instead of drying. But yes, this is cool. Instead of a solid shelf, it's a drying rack so that you don't have to display your dish rack on the countertop. If we do need to use a drying rack for whatever reason, I typically also just open up the dishwasher and use this as a drying rack. I grew up in an Asian household where we never used the dishwasher. If you don't know what I'm talking about, a lot of Asian families, especially first-year immigrants, typically don't really use their dishwasher because it's not too common in their home country. And there's a myth that you use way more water in the dishwasher versus washing it by hand. So growing up, we've never used a dishwasher. Even though we had a dishwasher, we never used it. We just used it for drying things. So there's a hack for you if you ever need more drying space. All right, let's come back to the sink now. It's not very common to have sponges. So this is actually a Scotch sponge that we brought over from the US because we had a huge Costco-sized pack of it and I just brought it over with us. I cut it in half just so that it's easier in my hand when I'm washing dishes. But in terms of living in Finland, a lot of people here in Finland don't really have this sponge here to clean their dishes. What's more popular here are these brushes. So they would just brush their dish with the brush. As you can see, there's a little hook on the end, and then since most people have this drying rack, they just hang it here and just let it dry. I think it's a lot more sanitary that way because sponges can harbor a lot of bacteria. I think this is maybe just like a more hygienic version of it. But what they do have are these Swedish washcloths. I think that's what we call them in the US, but they're like a spongy towel, and you can use this to clean dishes, and you can use it to wipe counters and whatnot. I usually leave it here to dry. What's also really common in Finnish kitchens is this cutting board here that's disguised as a drawer. And when you open it, it's a cutting board. I don't like it because I find it hard to clean. I guess it's fine if you're cutting bread, but if you're cutting like meat and stuff, I don't find it very useful. And then also there's oftentimes a hidden cutting board up here. So maybe some people use the top for a different thing than the bottom. I don't know. Again, we don't really use these cutting boards. We just use it for storage because we have enough cutting boards here already. And that's, I think, grease from a salmon. Finns drink a lot of coffee, so you'll often see lots of coffee makers in everybody's homes. I think Finland drinks the most coffee per capita out of any country in the world. And it's often very popular to drink coffee in Moomin mugs. So this is our Moomin mug collection here. This is one of my favorites that I picked up last year. Moomins are these hippo-looking like characters, but they're trolls, and they were created by a woman named Tove Jansson about 80 years ago, actually exactly 80 years ago this year. They are seen in comic books, comic strips, children's books, and stuff like that. It's a very, very popular character or series of characters here in Finland. You will not find a kitchen in Finland without a Moomin mug. Very important part of Finnish kitchens. Usually above the range, this cabinet here is for spices. This cabinet doesn't really go all the way back. It's like very shallow. And then you would just display your spices here. Instead of a spice drawer, we have this spice shelf here, right above the range. All right, so that's everything I wanted to cover in the kitchen. Now let's move on over to the bathroom. Here is a look at our bathroom. The floors in our bathroom are actually heated. We have them turned off because it's spring right now. We don't really need it, but there's a little dial here in which you can turn up how hot or how warm you want the floor to be. That's a really cool feature. And then as we walk in, you will see that we have our washer and dryer here in the bathroom. It's very common to have these in the bathroom instead of in a separate room. And dryers are not too common in Finland. Most people just have a washer. This up here, which controls the air filtration system in the house. So we didn't have enough room to stack the dryer on top of the washer. So we actually had to remove this whole cabinet to make room for our beloved dryer. I can't live without a dryer because I'm just so used to using them in the US. But a lot of Finns here in Finland don't have dryers. It's better for the environment. It's better for your clothes. It's also more budget friendly because you don't have to pay for all the electricity. We do also have one of these drying racks. Our dryer sensor, for some reason, doesn't really dry our clothes completely. So instead of running it through another short cycle, I just kind of hang it out here. Most people will have these on the balcony or just somewhere by the window so that the sun can dry their laundry. All right, let's go back to the bathroom. Okay, so the paneling that you see in the ceiling, if I reach out my hand, I can actually touch this. There's a lot of electrical things and plumbing and stuff hidden. So if they ever need to do any work up there, they just open up these panels instead of opening up a ceiling, which makes it very convenient. So in a lot of bathrooms in Finland, you will see this paneling up in the ceiling and sometimes also in the kitchen too. It just depends on how everything is set up in the house. And then if we walk a little bit closer to the sink here, you can see that there's pipes running outside of the wall. That's also very common. It just makes more sense, you know, if there's ever a leak, you can just see it right away instead of waiting for your wall to rot. So I find that fascinating. It doesn't really bother me. It doesn't look as nice as, you know, having pipes behind the wall, but I think it's more important to catch a leaky pipe faster than having, you know, a nice wall with no piping. Now let's talk about the toilet. The toilet here in Finland usually have two different settings. As you can see, there's a little like, I don't know what it is, a groove here. This one is a little bit smaller. This one is a little bit larger. You can control the amount of water that flows through your toilet. So if you're going number 1, you can use this side. And if you're going number 2, you can use this side. Most toilets will have this, but some might be round, some might be different shape, but usually there are 2 options. And if you look besides the toilet, there's a little bidet, and how this works is that you turn on the sink here, and then you can clean yourself that way. I personally don't really use this. I use this to clean the sink more often than using it to clean my bottom, but it's there. Let's see what else. Oh, towels. So there are not a lot of towel bars in which it goes like this and you hang your towel. It's more common here to hang your towel by the sewn-in labels is what this is called. It's a label that's sewn onto the side of all textiles, and you just hang your towels like that. It saves a lot of space. You can see here's a larger bath towel here that we have hanging. I think it's safe to say that all towels purchased in Finland will have this loop here so that you can hang all your towels. That up here, that's a vent. Okay, let's move on to our shower area. It's a little bit dark here. There's no light up here for whatever reason, so we have a clear shower curtain so that we can see in here. We have a big floor drain in the middle of the bathroom, so it's very easy to clean, and when you're taking a shower, you know, the floor is a little bit slanted towards the drain so that the water just goes down the drain. And then what we have here is a large squeegee that you can kind of just like guide the water into the drain if you need to. So this is a floor squeegee that's found in almost all Finnish homes as well. In the shower area, you might notice that we don't have a bathtub. We have a small bathtub for our kids to bathe in. It's not too common to find a bathtub in Finland. It's not impossible to find a bathtub, but it's just not very common. Most people have showers with a floor drain. We don't have bathtubs, but what we do have over here is a sauna. So this sauna is actually much bigger than our last one, as you can see, and we have a nice window there. This is an electric sauna, and we can fit our whole family of 4 in here, which is really nice. So to turn this on, you would just turn the knob on the right, and then here is the temperature. We have it set to max because my husband really likes the sauna to be hot. So this is an electric stove. It's kind of like an oven stove. There are like electric coils that run inside that turn red and turn on, and it gets very hot, and we have some rocks on top so that we can throw water on top of the sauna when it's warm so that it doesn't get too dry in here. When you throw water on here, you get a lot of moisture dispersed into the air and it just makes the sauna feel a lot better. Let's see, we also have a vent up there. An event there. We definitely don't live in a fancy house. Having a sauna in your apartment or in your house is very, very common. It's not something that the wealthy people have. Not all apartment buildings will have saunas. If your apartment doesn't have a personal sauna in your bathroom, you might very well be able to find one in your basement in which you can pay a small fee to use. You would just have to sign up ahead of time to use it. In our row house, we pay a flat water fee for each person that lives here. So we have 4 people that live here. Each person is 20 euros. So every month they would charge us 80 euros for our water consumption. But we just found out that they were doing a meter reading and we had no idea where the meter is. So my husband actually called the housing company. You can open this here and it turns out the water meter was in here. I should also mention this here. So this is a switch to turn on and off the water. You see that's on and off. You would turn this way and you would say off. It's funny that this is in English, which is great, but it's typically suggested that you leave it at off whenever you're not using the washer. I think we have these in the US too, but I don't know how common it is for people to turn it off when you're not using it. It's suggested that you turn it off every time you finish using the washer, just in case something happens to the water system. You don't burst your pipes, but we actually don't really turn it off. We only turn it off when we're away from the house for a long period of time. But I will bring you back to the kitchen because there is also a knob in the kitchen that turns on and off, and this connects to the dishwasher. So you really are supposed to leave it at off and only turn it on when you're using the dishwasher. People in Finland, please let me know how often you turn this off. Do you turn it off every time you're not using the appliance, or do you only turn it off when you're away for a long time? I was told to turn it off when we're not using the appliance, but then the person also told me that they don't really do that. So I've just kind of left it on because I don't really remember to turn it back on when I need it. But let me know in the comments below what you guys do. If that's something that I really should be following, maybe I need to change my ways. Okay, let's head on over to our bedroom. So our bedroom is actually right next to the bathroom. So this is what our room looks like. I guess you can call this the master bedroom in our house. It's the bigger bedroom, but it's actually not very big at all. We barely can fit a king-size bed in here, and then the cabinets kind of hit my side table because there's not enough room. But let's see, what should we talk about here? Okay, you can see that there are 2 blankets on the bed. It's very common for people to have separate blankets. You have your personal blanket instead of having one large blanket to share. Surprised me at first, but now I'm just really used to it. It's actually kind of nice because nobody tugs at your blanket. You get your very own blanket. We have a king-size bed, but if you look under the sheets here, you can see that it's actually 2 smaller mattresses pieced together. We have a mattress topper here to kind of connect the 2 mattresses, but it made moving a whole lot easier. I forgot to mention that we don't have an extra sheet beneath this, so we just have our blanket, which have a cover on it, and there's no extra sheet underneath that. In the US, we had a sheet on top of the fitted sheet and then the blanket, so that's not really a thing here. You just kind of have a cover for your blanket and then you have a fitted sheet and nothing else. We have a lot of storage space here in our room, which is really great, but you will likely not find an actual closet in which a door opens up to a separate tiny space in which you can walk in. It's way more common for you to have a floor to ceiling wardrobe. Okay, let's talk about our window. In my last apartment tour video, I mistakenly said that we have double pane windows, and then people commented and they said that, you know, your windows are actually triple paned. So if you open it, you will see that there's a layer of glass here, and then there are 2 layers here. You see how my fingers don't touch? Most windows here are triple paned because it gets very cold here during the winter, and it just You know, it just keeps the cold out and it's very nice. And I love these huge windows with no bars in between. It's just one piece of glass. And what's also very, very important in Finland to have are these blackout curtains. Because as summer approaches, you will get a lot of light, especially in the nighttime. The sun doesn't set until, I don't know, 11 maybe, 11:30 near midsummer, which is the longest day of the year. So if you're trying to put kids to bed especially, you want to make sure you have blackout curtains because they'll say, hey, there's still light outside, I'm not going to sleep. Having blackout curtains for us is a must. For some people, they don't like having blackout curtains. But yes, we have blackout curtains. Okay, this is my husband's side of the bed. He has his time set to the 24-hour clock because they run by the 24-hour clock instead of AM and PM here. Okay, let's now move on to my work area. What fascinates me about home office or offices in general is that they have different types of seating. This is my usual office chair that I use. My husband has a saddle chair. Let me actually go ahead and go get it to show you. The height is a little bit higher than like a normal desk chair. It's kind of an in-between between a stool and an office chair. It's a little bit higher and you sit on it kind of like how you would ride a horse. So he loves the saddle chair. When he moved to the US, he actually shipped it over to the US and shipped it back when we moved back to Finland. So I think it's very common to see these types of chairs in Finland. Speaking of different types of chairs, I also have a secondary chair that I use on my desk. So let me change it out for you. This here is called a muista chair. So muista actually comes from a company in Lithuania based on a word that means to fidget. So you can sit on it like this to work, but then you can also rock it so that you can kind of give some relief to your hips and also to your back as you're working. And what this chair also does is that it flips this way so that it kind of also acts like a saddle chair, like the one that I just showed you for my husband. So you can also rock this way. And kids also find this really fun to play on. Now, Muista did send this chair to me for review. This video is not sponsored by them whatsoever. I just really loved having the option of having a second chair. I did try my husband's saddle chair, but it didn't work for me because I was in a vehicle accident a long time ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, and I broke my hip. So just sitting on the saddle chair was too much pressure for my hip. So I found this chair to be very gentle on my hips, and it just gives me a sense of movement as I'm spending time in front of my computer. Now, if you want to give Muista chairs a try, they are offering my viewers a 5% discount on any chair that you choose. They also have ones where it's a little bit higher, so it's kind of like the height of a stool. If you want to use it in front of a standing desk or something, that might be a better choice. But you can get 5% off of your order by using Finlandia 5. And if you purchase 2 or more chairs, you can get 15% off and you can use Finlandia 15. I will leave all the links and all the codes down below as well so that you can check them out. And they do offer free shipping across all of EU and US and Canada as well. Okay, now let's talk about our living room. I actually don't have too much to say, except that I'm very thankful to have these large windows here that looks out into our backyard. I do have to complain about these office blinds here. This is tucked in between the 3 layers of glass and there's nothing we can do about it. We can of course open it like this we did here, but it's just a little bit annoying that they chose to have this type of blinds. It just feels like very officey, very corporate-y, but I mean, it does the job, so I can't complain. Okay, I'm sitting in my living room in front of my lovely laundry rack here. I guess I can mention that the living room counts as a room. So if you are online looking for different apartments or houses, the living room counts as a room. So I mentioned earlier that we have 4 bedrooms, but if you looked on the listing for this place, you'll see that this listing actually has it for 5 rooms because they count the living room as a room. I don't know why. They don't really say bedrooms, they just say rooms. So technically our house is a 5-room house. And maybe I can also mention something about the lighting here. So let me turn you around. So this is our lighting in our living room. We also have the same fixture over there. But whether you're renting an apartment or buying an apartment or house, it's very common to not have the lighting fixtures included in the deal, I guess you can say. So that's also something that we purchased from IKEA. This one has left undone. There's nothing clipped up there. So when you first move into an apartment or a house that you just bought, if you're doing some painting or cleaning or whatnot, you have to make sure you bring your own lights because the lights might not be there when you first move in. I found that to be really interesting and odd, but I guess that's also why there's no boob lights here in Finland. All right, so I think that's all I want to mention for everything that's inside of the house. Now we're going to go outside and I'll show you some amenities that comes with Finnish living. All right, the first thing I want to show you is our storage, our cold storage. So there's not really a lot of ventilation in here, which means we can't really keep anything that's fabric based. We had our stroller in here, but it quickly got moldy, even though there's an opening up there and also a vent down there. But it gets a little bit damp in here, so you can't keep anything that gets moldy very fast. But nevertheless, we have plenty of storage here. There's a cabinet that we had to take out from the bathroom. And this is also where we keep our winter tires. Tires here in Finland have studs on them for the winter, and so you often see 2 sets of tires for every household. We have 3 because we also have, I think, my mother-in-law's tires in here. Now let's take out the trash together. Garbage bins in apartment living and maybe also house living are usually hidden behind cabinets, and the bins are rather small, so you just use these like regular shopping sized bags for garbage bags. So with our cold storage, I opened that up with the same key that opens up our front door, and now we're about to open the garbage area, which utilizes the same key. It's locked behind this gate, and I think Europeans are very specific about sorting their garbage. So what I have here is just regular household garbage, and we're going to toss it in here. And then if you turn around, this is bio waste, which is organic waste or compost. This here is papers, like newspapers and soft papers. And then these 2 bins here are for cartons, so like boxes and stuff. This is for plastic packaging that's not PVC, I believe. So like caps and stuff will need to be thrown out, but you can recycle the bottom part, and also like food containers and plastic bags and stuff. And then over here we have metal and glass. This metal one is really full. People just throw anything that's metal in here, really, and the glass often gets shattered here in this bin. Most bottles and cans here do have a deposit, a cash deposit, in which you have to pay. So all grocery stores will have a recycling unit there in which you can return your bottles and get your cash back. And they have a sign here that tells you in detail what can and can't be recycled in these bins. Within our housing complex, we also have a parking spot that's included, and each parking spot will also have something that looks like this. So this is parking space 9 and parking space 10. Alright, I'll just show you how that works. I'm not able to open up the box because it seems like they changed the keys. I have to ask my husband about that. But what happens is you have a little outlet here, and you can plug your fan in here. There's a little timer inside that box in which you can set to what time you want it to turn on. The max amount of time you can turn it on is for an hour. So you kind of just want to time that for when you leave in the morning. So when it's snowing outside or there's ice on the car, you can turn this fan on an hour before you need it, and usually it will melt off the ice that's in the windshield. All right, and then in terms of connecting the car to the electric box, you open it up here. Ours is here, and you just plug this in here, and then the other end will go into the box. In our row house community, we also have this drying rack out here. There are several of these across the property. Of course, nobody's using it now because it's been raining, but when the sun is out, you can dry your laundry out here, or preferably your larger items like sheets and bedding and stuff. Our housing complex has a no smoking rule, and they have a designated bench out here in which you can come and smoke, but you're not allowed to smoke in your backyard. You're not allowed to smoke in your row house. You have to sit out here and smoke. While we're here, let me show you some amenities here. In this bin here, there are rocks, pebbles. Whee! But yes, this is where you can take rocks, and you can use a wheelbarrow to salt your walkway during the wintertime when it snows. The housing company takes care of the main walking areas, but the walkway that leads up to our house, that's not covered by them, so we kind of have to do that ourselves. Let me open up this door, because this might shock you, because it shocked me. So I'm using the same key that I used to open our door. This is the universal key that I spoke about. Here's gardening equipment that you can use for free. You just have to make sure you return it. I think that's a pressure washer up there. And there's like hoses down here. There's grass trimmers. I think, is this an electric grass trimmer? Oh, I have to tell my husband about that. I don't think he knows about that. Is it a grass trimmer? I think it is. But yeah, like gardening shears and masks, rakes. So we don't really have to purchase any of this stuff. We would just come in here and use it for free and return it while we're done. They also have like gardening gloves too. And then the smaller tools here that you can use for free. That's pretty cool. Oh, that's a chainsaw. Wow. They really have everything in here. All right, they also have these signs here. This is probably for the maintenance company. You have these stickers you can tape onto your mailbox if you don't want any advertising. There's two different ones. I have to ask my husband what it is, but I think one is like no magazines and one is no like advertisements or something. I don't know, I forget, but you can choose to have both or one on your mailbox so that you don't get junk mail. All right, let me come around to the other side of the building because there's something else here that I want to show you. From what I learned from my comments in my last home tour video, thank you guys for letting me know because this is something new that I didn't know. All apartments and row houses and whatnot have to have a working bomb shelter, and this is what that is. But during times of peace, they utilize this space for something else, and we're going to go in and have a look. Oh, and I forgot to show you this, but there's like grates here for the winter time. You can clean off your shoes, and then there's also this thing here. You can brush your shoes and get the dirt and mud and snow off and stuff. So let me use my same universal key to get into this room. Okay, before we go in there, this is the actual bomb shelter. You see there's two doors here, and this one is very, very heavy. It's locked, you can't even close it. But it's a super heavy duty door in here that you can close in times of emergency and if you ever need to use it. But right now, this is what we call our warm storage. So I'm using my universal key again. There are little cubicles set up in here for everybody to use. Every row house has a little space here, and you can just store whatever you want in here. We store our suitcases in here. It looks like this person has suitcases. So anything really that's not suitable for the cold storage, you would just bring in here. But yeah, this space will be utilized as an emergency bomb shelter if there's ever an emergency. Hopefully we don't ever have to use that in that way. But these cages are built very fast. They're not very sturdy because they're meant to be taken down in a very short amount of time. Speaking of that universal key that I told you about, a lot of people will also pay to have these locks made compatible to your universal key so that you can just also open these locks too. But yes, this is a bomb shelter. And then to the left, there's something else I want to show you too. This room makes no sense to me either. Here's the light. This is a free washing machine. Why is it free? I have no idea. There's a little calendar here. You can book your time. Each household is permitted to use this washing machine up to 8 hours per week. So here we have a little sink. We have a washing machine here. They say that you have to use like unscented detergent just in case there's people with allergies. So you have to make sure you use unscented. I've actually never used it before. They also say not to wash rugs in here because it could break the machine because it would get too heavy on one side. There's some free cleaning supplies up here because this room is not kept by the housing company. So we would just have to clean it ourselves. And then through this door here, this is the drying room. I don't think, oh, there is a light here. Okay. So that's a heater that will blow out hot air and you can dry your sheets and stuff in here. And then there's a little switch here. I don't know how long it stays on for, but you would just close this door here and then turn on the knob so that your stuff can dry faster. Here's another outdoor drying rack. That thing flips down so that you can also hang rugs and stuff here to dry. And of course, we also have playgrounds here for kids. I'm going to enter some video clips here of some playgrounds that are very common throughout different apartment complexes and buildings and stuff. Most apartment complexes will also have a flagpole because there are designated flag days here in Finland in which the flag must be raised. So that's also something very common here. Okay, so you might actually be wondering how much we pay for the row house that we live in. Our living situation is a little bit particular because we live in something called a right of residence. And in Suomi or Finnish, it's called a
asumisoikeusasunto.
Yeah, so how it works is that you pay a small fee to register and you will get a number. The earlier you apply, the lower the number will be. And whenever one of these right of residence properties come up, you can put in an application and the person with the lowest number will get first dibs on viewing the place. The number is only valid for 2 years, and in our case, we applied, would you say, a year and a half ago when we first arrived here. So we've had the number for a while, and when a listing came up, we decided to put another application in, and we were the ones with the lowest number. So we were the first ones shown the place, and we liked it, and we ended up getting it. And it's funny how these things work because when a listing comes up, you don't really see what the inside of the house or apartment looks like. You only get a floor plan because they can't just go in and photograph the place with people's belongings inside. And when we viewed the place, the previous tenant actually showed it to us. So instead of like a real estate agent or somebody that did the showing, it was the person that lived there. So it was nice to chat with her, and we also asked her about the environment and also the neighborhood and stuff like that. So that was nice. That was a very long-winded answer to how much we pay. So before I get to that, there's also a down payment that you have to pay. The whole idea behind these type of housing is it's typically for people who can't really afford to purchase anything on their own. And in our case, since we had just moved from the US, we didn't have valid credit here. And both my husband and I are freelancers, or what they call entrepreneurs here in Finland. And so the bank probably would not have trusted us with a large loan. So we were not able to purchase anything of that size. That's how we ended up living in a right of residence apartment, or townhouse, row house, whatever you want to call it. So the down payment is about 15% the market value of what it would cost to purchase. Ours was $38,000, and we were actually able to get a $38,000 loan from the bank. Our interest rate, do you remember? All right, I'll have to look that up and put it on the screen for you, but that's our interest rate. It's rather low. And so we put the down payment in, and then when we decide to move out, we actually get that money back, plus some interest, right? It's not interest, it's like some index correction. Okay, so the answer that you've been looking for, we pay 1,380 something euros. I think the townhouse comes with like low band internet, right? Yeah, we don't have that because my husband works from home and he needs good internet. So we pay extra for internet. We pay, I don't know how much. Do you know how much we pay for internet? $35 per month? Oh, that's pretty good. The HOA, quote unquote HOA fee is included. And that's why we had to remove the cabinet in the bathroom and then also keep it because it's part of the housing corporation's cabinet and we can't really just throw it away or donate it. So technically it's not a rental property because they can't just kick us out. That's why it's called right of residence. You can live there for as long as you want unless, you do something really bad and they kick you out, but that's very rare. So you can also transfer it to the next generation if you wanted to. But would you say that if we weren't living in one of these right of residence buildings for an apartment that size, that's the rent, 1,300?
No, it's more.
Is more? Oh. So when we first applied, they checked our net worth and determined that we were eligible for this type of apartment. We have neighbors that have downsized from a single family home to a smaller place. And then when you're 55, they don't check your net worth. Can you just say it one more time because it's a long word and I want to learn it?
Asumisoikeusasunto.
Asumisoikeusasunto. Why are the words here so dang long?
Compound word.
It's a compound word, okay.